for these villagers, and this was their first known Ebola outbreak. Then the following day, which was my last full day in Luebo, I motorcycled 35 kilometers north to Bakwatombe, my first visit in 20 years. This was a big event in the village. They had the men wearing the village masks and warriors, and dozens of women in traditional dress, dancing to the drums with hundreds of onlookers. We sat on mats on the ground with the village chiefs under a palm thatch awning. Chief Shamba led the discussion and translated for me from Chiquete to French. The chiefs were bare-chested in their raffia skirts and skull caps and spoke about their hopes to establish a medical clinic and about the difficulties the village continued to face. After saying our goodbyes with no hugs or handshakes during the Ebola outbreak, I headed back south down the road toward Luebo on a motorcycle. Then I stopped in Kabau, a small village 5 kilometers along the way. A dozen or so people crowded around to see who we were, and a villager with a warm smile stepped forward and greeted me by name. He was Shamba Shamba, one of my last fish farmer recruits. He had 2 wives and had named a son after me. I asked him if he was still fish farming. He said, "Oui, c'est un bon travail." He said, "Yes, it's good work." He showed me a photo of Pierre, who was now 22 years old and a recent graduate of the University of Lubumbashi. Shamba said that the fish farming had helped feed Pierre and pay for his school tuition. He asked me to wait, and he ran back to his tiny hut, just a thatched palm, walls and roof, and came back with a small, thick, dog-eared Bible, from which he pulled a photo of my mother holding newborn baby Pierre from when my parents had visited in 1985, 22 years earlier. So as I continued south on my motorcycle, there were tears in my eyes. My mother had died just 5 years earlier, and her absence was still very strongly felt. And I just felt overcome by the enormity of this confluence, all these connections and coincidences, all the friendships we have and the struggles in our lives that we just want to know each other and help each other and fight poverty and malnutrition and disease. So then Chief Shamba met me at the airstrip the next day. He'd been such a good friend and supporter when I was in the Peace Corps, and he'd written to me almost every year since then. And now he'd reported an Ebola outbreak in his village and had helped educate people around him about the risk of Ebola and how to protect themselves by not touching ill persons or cadavers. So as we said what turned out to be our last goodbye, I asked him, "Shamba, you're a village chief. How did you know before anyone else that this was Ebola when you sent me the text message?" He replied, "Didn't I remember? After the Kikwit Ebola outbreak in 1995, 12 years earlier, I'd written him a letter with a description of the clinical manifestations and epidemiology of Ebola. I had written, if you ever see something that looks like this, let me know."
Now that's a story you won't find in the research report. So we tried to get stories from many different people who represent all sorts of different aspects of the society. Our next speaker is Damasi Flavian Bayo, who last week started his residency program at KCMC in Arusha, Tanzania.
Normally we start the day with morning prayer at the church inside the hospital compound. This day was like many others before it until at precise 8 a.m. when the emergency department nurse came direct looking at me for a representative from pediatric department. I look around before quick acknowledging I will be attending to this emergency myself. I ran toward the emergency department to find a 10 years old Maasai boy convulsing continuously. His tonic chronic motion mirroring my quickened breath from the adrenaline rush. My mind joined the quickened pace to calculate the bleeding dose of diazepam to intervene. My eyes surveyed his body from head to toe, semi-conscious, drowsy, febrile, dizzy, and multiple large blisters in the axilla, jaw, back, and buttocks. A second dose, a second type of calculation landed me at my diagnostic conclusion of suspected meningitis with secondary bacterial skin infection. One he stabilized, my eye shift to father, the carpenter, who explained only brief history of events leading up to his presentation. I learned the boy was in standard 6 at a boarding school and had only returned home second day before at the county early response to the COVID-19 pandemic was school closing. His ailment began with a sudden onset of severe headache, gradual onset of high fever, progressive nausea and vomiting that all spanned a day that must have felt like eternity to him. I was elated to see my supervising pediatrician nearby, together we review the possibility of lumbar puncture to draw out the cerebrospinal fluid of this young boy in search of answering. Only to conclude the contraindication to this procedure with a blister on his back. Meningitis is a diagnosis we know far too well from our clinical experience in Tanzania. Once again, this young boy body was unattacked by a disease process we knew all too well. I easily remembered a flood of information about meningitis, as it was only a few weeks back that I was standing up in the chapel presenting pediatric meningitis as the part of continuing medical education lecture series. It was finally feeling as though all those steps of education were amounting to an accumulation of knowledge that mattered. After 2 months in surgery, I landed in my current position as an intern doctor on pediatric team. I'm fortunate to work with other intern doctor, a medical registrar, a supervising pediatrician, and a handful of visiting pediatricians. I've learned much about the experience and challenge of diagnosing and treating patients in low resource setting, which is the rule rather than the exception in our country. Day after day, I witness diseases of poverty such as malnutrition, HIV/AIDS, pneumonia, malaria, and diarrhea. We learn how to use what we have to save the lives of patients. In medical school, I was taught that 80% of final diagnosis comes from parallel taking the history and physical examination, which I memorized right, allowing all other nuggets of knowledge. It is only that now I've come to fully realize the difference in that teaching as I see a lack of available investigation including MRI and CT scan in my hospital. Those resources are only available at a few equipped private hospitals nearby, where most patients cannot afford to access them. After 4 days of intravenous antibiotics aimed directly at treating his suspected meningitis, his relatives began demanding discharge from the hospital as he was outward appearing to have returned to his normal health state, despite the reality that his body was still fighting his potential deadly pathogen if given the right circumstances. As I had been told, I explained calmly the core points of discharge and before completing the prescribed 14 days of intravenous antibiotics for his condition and my worry about his clinical course. I could see in their eye how much the father worried about attending to his job as it was the sole means of earning money for their family and how much the mother missed the rest of the family while attending to his sick son. I looked at the boy in front of me, smiling. It was as though he had not been ill and convulsing in front of my very eye just days ago. Despite my best effort, his family did not agree to stay and we were forced to discharge him with the second best option of weekly offer of oral antibiotics for the remaining duration of therapy. I felt like a mechanic given a task of fitting the bus and tire, this nut and bolt, just as it was embarking on a journey carrying type of passenger, and I chose the wrong bolt. However, I'm realizing that patients and their family have autonomy in making those decisions, and frequently those decisions are rooted in the heavy load of social and financial considerations impacting their everyday lives. The next day, again, I found myself in morning prayer at the chapel when this same young boy presented again with complaint of severe head and lower back pain. I felt like my heart was about to explode. The atmosphere in the chapel changed abrupt. It was a cold day during rain season, but suddenly I felt like I was close to the burning forest. All of the doctors in the chapel turned their eye on me. My team questioned us simultaneously on how we could let this happen and why we had discharged the patient prematurely. It was like an antelope meet a pride of lion in the wild and there was nowhere else to run. At first it remained silent and the whole chapel was quiet like a pond inside fog. Though I tried to relay the conversation of the day before, all the pediatric team could understand the depth of the story. Luckily for this young boy, following some further investigation, kind intravenous antibiotics, helped he recover completely. This case and many others like it challenged me to gain a deep understanding of Masawi society, where trust in traditional aid trumps trust in hospital and allopathic medicine. This results in late presentation of patients to hospital in critical condition, adding to the already existing challenge of treatment in low-resource settings. I've learned firsthand how those therapy are not benign. They result in end organ damage such as kidney failure and encephalopathy, and intoxication stemming from their very source of trust. There must be a way that we can share this reality with the community and change the trajectory of care that present to our hospital day after day. With each challenge I face, I gain a deep understanding of the complementary skill necessary to make a real difference in the life of my patients. Thus far, I've learned that medical knowledge, cultural understanding, and political savvy are critical components to holistic approach. Now I see those skill approaches as the most effective contributor to positive change. I desire to be among those around. Every day, I'm trying to learn and adapt to different cultural norms while building my understanding on how to work in a complex environment with inadequate resources. It seems through this process that my childhood dream has come to fruition to serve as a doctor, driven by compassion for those who in need of medical care, especially those who with least access.
Thank you very much, Dr. Freeman. Every clinician knows what it feels like to fail the patient. We'd love to think that we could always choose the right thing, always choose the right words, and always convince patients of the best path forward. But we can't always. Part of what I really appreciate about this society is the mix of clinicians, public health, and researchers. Because as clinicians, we can't fix the full system. We rely on our colleagues. Our next speaker is actually going to be joining us by video from Saudi Arabia. So we have Shema Abdallah from the King Abdulaziz University Faculty of Medicine, working on those system changes. So while we try to troubleshoot our sound so that we can hear from Dr. Abdallah, I'm going to give you a little bit of background of why I am hosting this story slam. So I am currently the section editor for the Stories from the Field from the American Journal of Tropical Medicine and Hygiene. Our first 5 speakers were all chosen because they submitted a story from the field that was published. They had the option to present the same story or a new story. So we have a couple of selections that we'll hear from different stories that have been published already. Our last couple of speakers have not yet had their stories published in our journal. However, their story will be airing on PBS. At this point in time, should I try and see if the sound can work? I get a head shake. Should we move on to our next speaker while we continue to work on that? So, I get the distinct privilege of getting to introduce the world-renowned Dr. Joy Wame. So her story takes us back and forth from the blue skies of Kenya to racially biased cold winter climates in the north. She traverses worlds in search of education and works in some of the best laboratories of the world. She is an EBS American trained in parasitology, medical entomology, public health, and tropical medicine, and I left the rest of her intro sitting over there as I came up to adjust to the sound, so give me 1 minute. Thank you. She is a ASTMH Distinguished International Fellow and the 2018 recipient of the Clara Ludlow Self-Made Medal. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Thank you very much, Christina. I feel very privileged to be here with you all this evening to share my story of a hygiene class and nearly 6 decades on. I will try to go through those 6 decades, traversing between Kenya, across the Atlantic, transatlantic flights to the US. As Christina told you, my training has been in the US. Thank you very much for that nice introduction about me. The story that I'm going to give again is between the period around 1959 on the screen. So as we are figuring how the mouse is going to work, I can continue so that we can save time. It's the period between around 1959. I believe this portrait was taken at just around Christmas time. My parents had a tradition of getting the whole family during Christmas time to take a family portrait. And this is the first ever portrait that I remember seeing in my mother's photographs collection. So I believe it's the first one. On the portrait, I'm like about 3 years old. You see it when it begins to work. And as I'm saying, there is the portrait of the family about Christmas time in 1859. And then I have a short video clip that was recorded about 2018, so that we can cover the period between, I think, about 1959 and 2018. Yes, thank you. In 1959, that was just after the Second World War, around the end of the Second World War, and there was a lot of disruption of the traditional setups of the families in Kenya and most parts of the world, I believe. So the colonialists, the British colonialists, had it to their best understanding that the best way for administration was to relocate populations from their small holdings or their farms, however big they were, and put them in villages. The villages obviously had the unintended effect of being overpopulated and congested and without the best hygiene. Oh, the picture is on. Hygiene amenities. I think you can all see the family portrait. There is my dad, very proudly holding the photograph of his wedding to my mom. My mom is holding my little sister who follows me. And I'm next to my mom in the white and black flower dress without shoes. So the import of this photograph is the congestion in the village setup that led to contaminated environment, and naturally, you know what would happen in a contaminated environment. This is not to say there were no peatland trees. Every household had a peatland tree, but you can imagine the problems of small kids using peatland trees. And years later, I would get to understand that the environment was very contaminated. Strange enough, we would be given, my parents would give us nutritious foods, eggs and balanced meals, but for some reason I never enjoyed eggs. I hated eggs. I hated eggs with a passion. Whenever I was given some fried eggs, I would walk behind the home, bury the eggs under the dirt, and start munching the dirt. That was tasting so absolutely so delicious. I munched the dirt for several years, and obviously now, looking back, I know I experienced the signs and symptoms of worm infections. At that point in time, I didn't know that I was being infected by worms, but now I know. Geophagy, the munching of dirt, we know it from a parasitological point of view, is because of low levels of iron. So where was my iron going to? Naturally, some intestinal worms were robbing my tiny stomach of my iron. The period between 1959 and 2018, I'll take you through this short video clip. Under 1 minute. And it happened in 2018 when the American Society of invited me to receive the Clara Southmed Legal Medal. Actually, I was the second recipient, second only to Professor Ruth Lusinko. This for me is very important because it was an acknowledgement of my work, not just myself alone, but with the support of all the support systems that I had gained along the way, from the time my parents took me to school, through my teachers in Kenya, and even in the universities in the US. All those support systems, I believe the award is for them, not for me alone. I want to move on and take you now to the space of primary school in Kenya. And I remember how the story of the hygiene and a class in hygiene 6 decades on started from the impression in primary school of why it is important to be clean nails, short nails, clean hair, clean toes, clean uniform, clean notes, and on one prize giving day at the end of the year, I remember the headmaster called me, during the prize giving ceremony. I was totally unaware what was going on. He called me to go to the front, and he said I was the recipient of the award for the best groomed student in the whole primary school. I couldn't believe it. And when the headmaster called me, I remember walking to the, it is not a hall, it's outside in the playground. That's where we were having the prize giving ceremony. And naturally the ground was uneven. But I remember trotting to the front and trying to balance and wondering why I'm being brought to the front, and realized that I was going to get a basket for laundry. That was my prize. And I guess it was a very important prize because it impressed on me on how to stay best groomed. Fast forward. Along that same story, I would like to let you know what I experienced then and what I've experienced this week, in particular in terms of climate change, has a connection. We have had several sessions on climate change and the effect on global health this week, but I remember very well while walking from home to the primary school, which was like, I believe like 5 kilometers back and forth. I would walk across several rivers, and by the roadside I would see springs of fresh water running by the roadside, and I would see dragonflies flying all over, lush greenery, which is not, you wouldn't see it today now because of climate change. So things have changed a lot since then. So then I joined high school, and after high school, in Kenya we have lower grade high school and then senior high, and I'll take you over to the part about the senior high, where I remember driving all the way from Nairobi. My parents put me in their pickup, my mother and my dad, and we drove for a journey of about 300 miles, 300 kilometers, which is about 250 miles, I believe. A journey then that appeared to be like a whole day for me those days. And I believe because the road infrastructure was not that good in Kenya, but when I Googled today, it was saying that it would only take 3 hours and a half. Of course, in 60 years, a lot has changed. So for this, I feel totally forever indebted to my parents that they chose to drive all the way from Nairobi to Eldoret, make sure that I have had a meal over to the headmistress, and ensure that I'm comfortable for my senior high, and then drive back. Then beyond that, when I want to get across from Kenya to Washington, Duluth, in 1977, where I found myself heading to North Carolina for my undergraduate studies, and I was totally lost at the airport, but on boarding the Piedmont Airlines, I don't know if Piedmont Airlines is still around, I remember I sat by the window seat, I love sitting by the window seats in the aircraft, and I could watch the Piedmont as we flew around the Piedmont mountains, and it was during fall. The trees were awesome, they were so beautiful. Up to today, I still say that my home state is North Carolina, because those memories are still fresh in my head. About 50 years later, I still remember. Then in North Carolina, I didn't stay long because I realized that the degree I was being offered is not exactly what I wanted to do in life, and I quickly moved to a university in the Midwest. I read that university anonymous. I'm not going to mention the name, and you know that I'm not mentioning the name. But I had good times in that university. I enjoyed my stay in that university, but I also had my downs in that university. At one time, we were given an assignment to write a paper on an insect of our choice. Because I was taking entomology, I went to the library, I checked through the books, and what caught my attention was a picture of an old African man led on a cane by a small boy, naturally because the old man was blind, and when I read the book, I realized that he was being blinded by the infection on Kasaka. For me, I felt very sad because I had never experienced on Kasaka in Kenya before having to Kenya, and I felt this is not fair. people getting blinded because of worms. And at that particular time is when I decided I want to work on worms for the rest of my life. And that's what I still work on. However, there was the downside of that university somewhere in the Midwest is that in the entomology class, for some reason, I don't know what happened, I studied hard. I had my study buddy, a girl from Venezuela, Anna. We studied compare notes. When the mark scripts come back, we compare who scored A, where did we fail. One particular time, in respect of the entomology class, the scores came back. I had been scored a B, Anna had an A, we had studied together, and I decided, Anna, what's happening? Am I having a B and you have an A? So we compared with Anna and she said, no, you should have had an A. Go and ask the professor why he gave you a B. So with my energized by encouragement from Anna, I went to the professor and said, you don't understand why I scored a B. The professor looked at me and said, you, this is a little bit sad. You, a black student, if I give you an A, what will I score the white student? So today, I still call that B my black B. It was then, up until that time, it was the first B on my transcript. And I still cannot understand why I had to score a B on the basis of my skin, the color of my skin. At that time, I also did some detasseling of corn in Iowa because of summer jobs to raise funds for education. I sold encyclopedias and Bibles from door to door, and I had a lot of fun doing that. And then, of course, I met many good people who would welcome us to their homes, and the good experiences, of course, would wipe away the negative experiences for me. After that, I went back to Kenya. In Kenya, as I said, I would come to stay in the US for a while, go back to Kenya, and then I would come back to take my master's. I did that at Tulane, went back to Kenya, and then came back and did my PhD at Tulane. And the interesting part here is I was involved in transmission studies of filarial parasites in non-human primates. So my research work was based between New Orleans and Covington in Louisiana, because that's where Tulane University had, I think they still have, the Delta primate research. So I was working with monkeys then in preparation to go and do the same work in Kenya. And those were beautiful days, crossing the Lake Pontchartrain and back and forth. Then I worked for Kenya Medical Research Institute. I mentored several people who now have got their own, planted their own positions in global health in different parts of the world. I have trained students who have taught in the universities. And sometimes when I meet these students, they'll look at me and say, oh, we are so appreciative you talked to us about this. Or they'll even send me pictures of, like, say, biases. And they'll ask me, what is this? We remember you taught us this. You know, it's easy these days because they can just take a picture and send it to me. You know, all manner of interactions which make me feel very appreciative. So other than working as a researcher in Kenya and teaching in universities, then I have been in several positions of advisory, WHO, and some NGOs, and I think up to today I do that. And yes, before I go to this last slide, I want to take us back to the video clip and why I came to the 2018 ASTMA, because it's another sad moment. The award was great, I was happy about it, and I am forever appreciative of the society for awarding me that medal. But on arriving at the airport in New Orleans, I will go, you know, the way we go through customs and immigration. When I approached the immigration person, he handed my passport. The first question he asked me with a gloomy face and smiling. So, madam, why are you attempting to enter the US this time? That totally took me off guard because of the question attempting. Here I was with an invitation to come and receive a medal, and there's an immigration officer telling me that I'm attempting to enter the US. So, but then I realized that if I did not give him the answer he was looking for, he had the powers to tell me, get back on the plane and go back to Kenya. In fact, when we get our visas, we are told the final authority depends on the immigration officer. They told him, yes, I'm here to attend the American Society of Medicine. He stamped my passport and I marched out. But as I was leaving the airport, I thought, if only that man was the same thing as my professor of the Black B grade, would the society have thought of awarding me that prestigious medal? If it was then, maybe the society would have said, okay, we are going to award you a Black Southern Negro medal for your inspiration and plus pioneering spirit. But of course, things have changed a lot. The medal is a medal for everybody. It's nothing to do with the color of the skin. So to come to the end of what I have done over the years, I want to take you to this, the two pictures there. This happened on the 13th of last night. It was the day of the World Sight Day, and it happens on every Thursday, every second Thursday of October. And I joined a community, a Maasai community in Kajiado in Kenya, where on behalf of Operation Eyesight, we were donating some equipment to start a new eye unit and laying the foundation stone for building that eye unit. So, of course, I have several beautiful pictures like this here. This is just a representative one, but I would like to say that moments like this, you can see on the right-hand side at the bottom, the Maasai people, how happy they are, dancing, men and women, because we have thought of their area and gifted them with an eye unit to take care of the eye issues. And then the other photograph there, you can see we have joined them to dance. Next to me is the governor of that county. And moments like this, when I see the communities appreciating our work, it just makes me very, very, very happy. So I want to bring my story to an end at that point, but I would also want to remember that my experiences going back between Kenya and the US, or even Europe and other parts of the world, it always feels like it comes to a point where I have to take, like I'm removing what I'm used to in Kenya and putting on some other, to prepare myself for the entry to say Japan, Europe, or the US. I have done that to remind you that this shirt actually is was promotional material for the World Sight Day. So I would like you to, that was the theme for 2025. So I would like to encourage all of us to love our eyes and make a point to have your eyes screened if they have not been screened for some time before the end of the year. Love your career, love everything. I'm very happy of my chosen career. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, both for your story and for your flexibility. Are you able to share the video at this point in time? I have a thumbs up. So now we will be hearing from Dr. Abdallah from Saudi Arabia. Thank you.
Recording in progress. Hi, my name is Shema Abdelai, and I would like to share my reflection on the hidden reality of women in science. I am speaking from Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, the city of prosperity and despair. I work as an assistant professor and clinical parapsychologist at King Abdulaziz University Hospital. So what does a journey of a female look like? What is the untold part of the experience? There are many perspectives. My perspective, I was born and raised in Saudi Arabia, and I moved to the United States to continue my education after earning my medical degree. I have always worked with vulnerable and marginalized populations. So reality as an experience, not our usual scientific talk about female or about women. We usually use statistics, facts. However, I'm really here to share my own untold story that some of you might have similar experience or you might can relate to from three different lenses: my education, work, and social construct. I'm also here sharing the opportunities as well as the challenge that made who I am today. First, I'm so grateful for the family support that allowed me to be actually the first physician in my family. I am a first generation university grad that actually continued to earn my PhD and in a foreign country. It was a very challenging and uncomfortable experience when I chose to break all the norms, get married, and have my first child during medical school. Breaking all the rules was not easy. I cannot forget all these negative comments regarding how females should not be a doctor and have families, we should choose one of them, not career and family. I still remember until today the day that I was called to the dean office to discuss how, they should deal with a pregnant student. It's not the usual things that they have to deal with in medical school. But also it was so joyful and fulfilling. By the end of this year, there was 4 of us. Moving to work experience, once I finished my medical school, I was first working as a pathology resident. There was this really incident that changed my career path and really changed my life. We have this pregnant woman who presented to the ER. She was about 20 years old. It's her first pregnancy, 9 months. She had this high fever. While she was under the care, under investigation, she was really deteriorating. We discovered that she had cerebral malaria. We had to push her for an emergency C-section to deliver the baby. We did not have ID planning, and she passed away. Really, really, very traumatizing. And one of the things that, we don't know that we have malaria. Malaria was not expected. She does not have the travel history. Then really I sit and I will decide, I don't want to see sick people around. I really want to see healthy people. I also shifted the gears. What happened? What is the root truth? What's the root causes of malaria in Saudi Arabia? What's the extent? I start looking, what field actually that comes from feedback? How can I reach it? By that time, public health and tropical medicine wasn't the normal path or available even, to go through. Moving my family to a new country, deciding if this is something I can do or not. It was not even something familiar or easy. Living as a single mom while you're not single, that was one of the hardest decisions that I made with my partner. Again, it's all the social norms. Female are not supposed to move their children, leave, their house and go seek, a new career or education. Being in the United States was not easy as well. I still remember my first epidemiology midterm exam when my daughter actually hurt her toe and she needs an immediate suture. Running to the ER, going through that system, filling all that paperwork while, I need to be on time for exam. This traumatizing experience actually from my medical school, I didn't even thought that I might, skip that. It's probably, if I miss that exam, my whole career will be over. Leaving actually my daughter with the nanny in the ER, running back quickly to give my test and coming back to see how she's doing. I don't even have words to explain how difficult this time was. Again, being in the field on research of malaria was not easy. On top of that layer, seeking back opportunities to do studies back home, navigating the system and the location. It's actually, the Saudi-Yemeni border. It's a very geopolitically complex area and charged. Decision to go in that field work was not easy. The uncountable setback and generous support from my family, the uncountable setbacks and the generous support from my family and my supervisor was amazing. We celebrated all the failures, and I truly appreciate the small wins. It took like a whole 7 years to finish my PhD on field work, and it actually took me 2.5 years to secure my first interview with, seasonal migrant worker. It's not easy. You have to navigate all of this system. People does not feel really comfortable talking to a woman as well. It's a male predominant field. But again, the IRB nightmare to approve, distance work or overseas, monitoring this research and using all of this remote, because it's just like, it's a war zone. It's very hard to continue doing the work there. But again, I feel the universe just apologized to me when COVID-19 hit and we all went to the lockdown and actually have to use these, remote tools. I felt like this is it. It's okay to do unusual things, and that everyone now knows why you should be flexible. Finally, this very, very heavy and sad experience, when I actually was watching on this Saturday, in Tidewater building at 2 a.m., the collapse of the Hard Rock Hotel, the people, the dust, it was very, unexplained. It's like a war zone, but you're not in a war zone. At the same time, I have to be strong. It wasn't even an option. I live really close by. I have to go and evacuate my children from the house. I was struggling at that time to extend my scholarship, finish or wrapping up my dissertation. It's just adding all of these layers and when it's gonna stop. And again, it was very fulfilling and nice to have my entire family attending my dissertation. Especially that I have a lot of things that was unusual and very, very fulfilling, very fulfilling to see my grandmother who was even attending. She hadn't even clue what I was talking about, but she was there during my dissertation and seeing the whole process. You would think this is the end, but again, it's not. Going back home, start working in the field again, trying to navigate the systems, secure funds, advocating actually for migrant health, tropical medicine, teaching about parasitology, setting up labs. I just feel it's an adventure. You don't know what's the outcome, but again, just live it, embrace the challenge. And I became actually a storyteller. I became a storyteller.